Welcome to the Niche Pursuits Podcast. Are you ready to discover some niche business ideas that actually work? Well, it's time for a motivational kick to jumpstart your next big idea. Here's your host, Spencer Haas.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Niche Pursuits Podcast. I'm your host, Spencer Haas from nichepursuits.com. And today I've got another guest interview for you. This is actually a regular Niche Pursuits reader and podcast listener that has had some success with his niche sites. His name is Dave Fox. He doesn't have a blog that you can go check out. He's just one of those guys that's kind of under the radar, if you will, building his own niche websites and has built up a decent little business. His sites bring in about $5,000 per month that he shared with us. And along the way, he shares a lot of the specific tactics that he employs to enjoy some of the success that he is, some of the link building strategies, keyword research strategies, and other things. He has an interesting story because of his background and how he got started building niche websites. And of course, it's always just great to hear from a reader that is finding some success in their own niche website business. So with that, I hope you enjoy the interview. All right, Dave, welcome to the Niche Pursuits Podcast. How you doing?
Not too bad, Spencer. How are you?
Doing very well, thank you. I'm excited to have you on the podcast because you shared a little bit of the success that you're having with some of your niche sites. And so I do want to dive into that and what's working well for you in particular. But before we do, can you give us a brief idea of your background, business and work experience previous to building websites?
Sure. I still am a music teacher, but I've been teaching music like guitar, like drums and singing for about 15 years. So that's what I've been doing around like my area here locally. And that's been my job for like the last little while. So aside from that, before that, I guess I just I did those like fairly crappy jobs that nobody likes, or maybe some people like them, but I like factory kind of like temp work, just sort of like milling about, trying to like make some money before I figured out the music teaching thing. And then, that's about it.
So do you teach just private lessons, or do you teach like at a school or something like that?
Yeah. There was a school that I taught at for about 5 years around here in Ontario. And then it closed down and I just went to private lessons and kept sort of growing my student base or whatever. And so that went okay for a while. I also paint, so I sell my own like paintings. So it's all kind of an artsy kind of thing, whatever. But at the same time, like that wasn't, after a while that didn't bring in enough income. I realized like I tried to make it work and stuff, but I was sort of looking for something new after about 10 years. Yeah.
So give us an idea then of how you went from the shift of being a music teacher and artist to having your first sort of online business venture, and what was that?
Okay. Yeah. It's sort of I guess it could sound like it's a good story, I guess, but maybe it wasn't so fun for me to actually live it. But I had this, I met this girl who lived in Turkey, and I met her on Facebook. Sort of a lot of information, but I met this girl. I was kind of planning to marry her and stuff and going to move to Turkey and teach English there. This is like 3 or so years ago. And then that all fell apart. And then I was sort of just sitting around kind of depressed and trying to just sort of generate some ideas. I was fairly depressed actually. So I had my music thing, but it wasn't doing that great. This girl, I just broke up with this girl. And things kind of sucked at that moment. And that's when I started digging around online. I just sort of stumbled on some videos and started watching and learning stuff, So that's kind of how I got into it.
Right. So you kind of, quite the adventure. Like you said, maybe not fun for you, but it is an interesting story. So maybe you're at a low point looking for something else. And I mean, can you give us an idea of what sort of, not necessarily what videos you're watching, but what sort of business ventures you were looking into at the time?
Well, I actually wasn't looking for anything. I was literally just like sitting in the basement, like came across the lazy ass stoner guy. I don't know if you know who that is.
I don't.
Yeah. He has this. He's kind of cool. Like he helped me out a little bit. But his videos are pretty funny. They're all sort of they're very enthusiastic, and it's just like, yo, like you want to master Pinterest? This is how you do it. It's easy. Bam, bam. Like that's
right.
Sort of a
high energy.
Yeah, well, kind of, but like he's a stoner, so I guess that's his theme, and so it's a little bit laid back too. So I was like, what is this guy talking about? Like, he still has his YouTube channel up, so I guess like shout out to that guy. But he hasn't posted anything in a while, and he was one of the first guys that I like watched his videos and was like, what is he talking about? Like, and then just sort of started to get into it slowly and thinking like, is this a real thing? Like, can you actually do this? And so yeah, that was like the first thing that I looked at when I was sort of, down in the dumps there. But then, yeah, it sort of started to slowly catch on, and I kind of like started to see more and learn more about it and so forth. Yeah.
No, that makes sense. I think a lot of people have a unique way of how they sort of the light bulb moment goes on when, okay, you can actually make money using the internet, right? This is a real thing. So kind of take us from that leap of, okay, you're watching these videos of whatever, how to get traffic to Pinterest and et cetera, to where your business is today. And maybe you can give us an idea of, where is your business right now?
Okay. Well, I mean, the first year was kind of like pretty much a lot of like, I know I've listened to like a lot of your podcasts and a lot of podcasts in general. And there's a certain thing where it's like, there's going to be a lot of sort of failure at the beginning, and your first few sites might not do that well kind of thing. And that was the case for me too. The first year I was like, I got into it. I just thought, wow, this is amazing. I got to try this. So I like started making websites that were based on things that I was more interested in, I guess. Like, so I'm interested in comics. I started a comic site. I did like a cellulite site, I had a domain that was like getridofcellulitefast.com type thing.
Good old exact match domain era. Yep.
Yeah. None of that worked really, because I think like I kept those domains around for like a year and a half or maybe 2 years even. Like last year I got rid of them, like all of them basically. Because they weren't doing anything. And I realized at one point, I'm like, geez, I really did these backwards. Like I didn't do them properly according to the way that I do things now. And so I really just had to just like get rid of them at a certain point. But it came from the fact that I was talking to I was with HostGator, and HostGator was like telling me that I had like had an overage on my inodes. They're like, you have way too many inodes, like 20,000 too many inodes. I'm like, what's an inode? And they're like, they tried to explain it to me, and I'm like, okay, so I just have too many files. Like, which files should I get rid of? And they're like, we don't know. And I'm like, maybe I'll just hack off these like 3 or 4 websites that aren't doing anything. And that's what I did. And then I bailed on HostGator because I didn't really like their service. But so yeah, then that's when things actually picked up, because I had like a couple sites that I was doing properly at that point. So this is like a year and a half later. And then those sites are the ones that I focused on. So I'm glad that I got rid of the ones that were kind of not working, because they weren't doing anything really. So
you've built some new sites. Things have started to work a little bit better. About how many sites do you have right now? And are they mainly like Amazon affiliate type sites?
Yeah, I have like 8 sites, and they're all Amazon pretty much, or if they aren't quite, they're becoming more Amazon like based. Like I have this one music site that's sort of my oldest site, and it had nothing to do with Amazon at first, but then I'm like, well, I would like to monetize it. So I switched it over to like being Amazon based, and then they're all pretty much Amazon based. And so there's a few that are more new that are kind of just coming up this year, like in the past, 8 months. And then there's 4 other ones that I've had for like a year or 2. And they're basically already sort of going along. So yeah, that's where I'm at with that.
Awesome. No, that sounds good. So I like to give people listeners an idea of how much or how well your business is doing. So if you're willing, Can you give us an idea of
Yeah.
how much revenue your sites are making right now or whatever you're willing to share?
Yeah. Basically right about now, they're at about the 5K mark for like all of them, not each, but all together. And then the way that like, because our dollar here in Canada is like not doing so great, it actually makes it out to be like, $7,000 by the time like the money comes in America. And then if I convert it to Canadian, it's 7. So yeah, that's about where it's at.
Okay. So about $5,000 a month or so. That's a solid business. I mean, that's nothing, that's more than a lot of people make at their full-time job for sure.
Yeah, it's decent for sure.
Yeah. So now that we kind of know how well your business is doing, I'd like to dive into how you got there. So can you give us an idea of the process you use for building a successful website? And of course, I mean, this could be a really long discussion, but sort of, what's the general strategies that you employ, I guess?
Yeah, like it's, as like the learning curve can be pretty steep if you're looking at, like if you're just sucking in all the information, then there's quite a bit you can you can look at, right? So I guess I'm still learning a lot of things, like depending on, like right now there's certain strategies that are working, like in the past 2 months, for instance. But in general, it's just a process of kind of keeping it sort of simple. I think I made a few mistakes in regards to like you make a site that's too broad. Like I don't think Google necessarily likes it when you make a site that is like, if you make an authority site and you're not willing to back that up, then that's going to be pretty slow going, I guess, because it's actually very broad, right? The topics and whatnot. So the sites that are working better are basically just one sort of specific type of thing. Not, it still can be a little bit broad, but it's about one topic. So say it's about boots, it's like, then it's all about boots, and you just keep writing about boots, and you keep doing the typical, top 10 or the best review type stuff, like just the typical niche stuff, right?
Right. So you're doing, it's nothing out of the ordinary as far as keyword research. You're just looking for low competition keywords. Then you're writing a review article or a comparison article where you've got your comparison chart, right, that has affiliate links in it.
Yeah, like I met this guy a little while ago, and he was one of the guys that kind of mentored me. He's a British guy, and he was doing well with the UK program with Amazon, and he had a different sort of outlook on it to what I was doing at the time. So when I started making some of the sites, he was saying to me, like, just do it. Like, don't look any of this stuff up. Just do it. Like, and I'm like, what do you mean don't look it up? There's rules. And he's like, I don't follow those rules. Just do what you think is going to work. And I'm like, I don't understand. Like, so anyway, that actually was kind of helpful because, I find that it's sort of limiting to just follow all the rules all the time. So the way I do it now, for instance, if I have an idea, like I just kind of go with it. It doesn't always have to be like, I think you probably have to have a solid core of like the keyword research and all that stuff. Like that stuff has to be like internalized. But beyond that, once you internalize it, I guess you're not supposed to overthink it too much, right? Just kind of roll with it a little bit.
Now, when you say don't follow the rules, I mean, do you mean like you don't worry too much about finding specific keywords that are above a certain search volume or that meet certain criteria? You just, if a topic seems to make sense for your website, you go ahead and write about that.
Yeah, for sure. Like, because if it seems like it should be part of the website, I don't want it to ignore it. I want to actually write about it and have it on there so that it seems like very natural. And so that because it actually, like, the best sort of policy is that, the website actually should be good and it should actually be helpful. There's something kind of counterintuitive where I think a lot of niche people, like, they overthink it, and they like I was overthinking it and just sort of ignoring the fact that you do actually want to help people. It's not like for a while, I think I had a guilt complex about it. Maybe just I was thinking like, this is sort of like a lowbrow thing that like I'm tricking people into doing this. I'm writing like fake reviews about things. And then at some point I'm like, well, I don't have to write fake reviews about things. I can just make I can make it as helpful as I can. And that kind of thing. So for a while, I guess just because of the way that people reacted to it when I got into it, they're like, what are you doing? This is not a real thing. And like, it doesn't seem like, I don't know if you've ever, like, if you experienced this at all, but like certain people look at this sort of business and think that it's sort of like they don't understand it. So they just think that it's sort of under the radar kind of thing. Right.
Right. Yep. I totally understand.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So how much is your biggest, you have about 8 or so. Do you have one that's, bringing in the bulk of that income?
Yeah, pretty much. Like, so I have one that's doing about $3,000 a month.
Okay. So let's not, we don't, want to reveal that domain, but let's sort of think about that one website that's the most successful.
Sure.
Is that one a large website? I mean, like how many articles are on there? Is that part of the reason for the success of that one?
I think so. Yeah. Like it's large in that I just kept cranking out articles, and it was kind of like hell or high water for me. I'm like, I'm going to just keep cranking out articles until I just like drop. And so this site, I'm going to make it work. And so it's got at least like 250 posts on it right now, which is a lot, right?
Yeah, that is 250.
Yeah, at this point. So it's a 2-year-old site. It's got 250-ish posts. I've slowed down a lot recently because I literally did like kind of fry my brain trying to keep going with it. And I feel like there's lots to write about on this site. It's a very like, the topic is very, something that everybody loves, and you can just talk about it forever. But at the same time, like, there's a lot of like content creation. And not only that, but I did all these posts, and then I had to go back and redo a lot of them because I just realized how weak the content was, and it just was driving me nuts. So I've been over that site with like a fine tooth comb, just going like, this site cannot suck. It has to be good. It has to be perfect. And I'd like just go through and be like, oh my God, like, why did I put that? I'd put like, like 5 different colors. I'd like color the headers purple for no reason and things like that.
Right. So you're still writing all of the content yourself, or you did in the past? You pretty much all of those articles you wrote?
I did a lot of them, I guess. But at a certain point, I was able to hire some people to keep it going. So like, that's another big part of this too, is that like I put a lot of money back into the business, and I don't even really think about it like it's a real moneymaker for me right now. It's more just like, I want to reinvest, and I want to like be doing better down the road, I guess. So I'm not so hung up on, wow, I'm making like 5,000 or whatever. It's like, I make 5,000 and then like right away I pay people, and like that pretty much like eats a lot of that up but that's by choice. I feel like, I mean, it's something that I like to do. Right.
You're investing in growth of the site. Right. And so there's some ongoing expenses.
Right.
So how important is link building in your niche website strategy?
It's gotten to be a lot more important because I think that was my weakest point for a long time. You have that one podcast, I forget what her name is, but the no links lady.
Yep. Claire Smith.
Yeah. Claire Smith. And, so for a while I'm like, Claire Smith, she did it, that kind of thing. And so I was like, that's sort of inspiring in a way, because if you don't get the whole link building thing, then that's sort of what I did. I just kept writing content, and I was getting better at sort of watching how it's ranking and sort of learning about Search Console and analytics and that stuff. And but eventually I was like, well, I mean, like you can only get so far without like, I think maybe it was like Perrin said something at some point, like, I don't know what he said actually, but he said something along the lines of link building, and like it really, really helps to get on board with that. And I'm like, yeah, maybe he's right,
Okay, so you've started doing more link building, and so you've seen that that's helped your
Yeah.
sites. So can you give us an idea of one or two of your best link building strategies that you're willing to share?
Okay. The scholarship one,
Right.
that one is working well for me right now.
And maybe just give a brief 30-second summary of that, just for any new listeners that aren't familiar with that.
Yeah. Okay. So the scholarship one, I guess it's not that old. It's not that new anymore. I don't know. It's sort of in the past year. I guess I've seen a lot of stuff about trying the scholarship method, right? And basically, universities offer scholarships. Universities are like edu domains, and the domain authority on them and the page authority is usually really high. So therefore, it's quite beneficial to get them, and it's actually not that hard to get them because you just have to basically, make a scholarship and then offer it and email them, and they'll link to you. So on the one hand, it seems like super easy. On the other hand, you might actually have to give someone a scholarship.
Right. Yes, I would say you would definitely need to give them the scholarship if somebody does apply, right?
Yeah. And the thing, well, that's the idea. But the thing is, like, I guess I only started doing this maybe a month ago. And so I have a little team of people that I work with here that we do, like, I have like some people that I pay for outreach. Yeah. So those guys, we're all kind of working together, and the scholarship thing is something that we've been working on lately. And, yeah, like, so it's just been in the past month that I've tried it, but we've gotten a few links back. And then, also I've gotten a few submissions for content, because you say, like, submit your content on X topic, and then we'll post it. We'll give you credit. You'll be entered into the contest. And then at this, deadline, you'll get your, we'll let you know if you won or not. So
I see. So as part of the scholarship, you actually, of course, ask them to submit a essay application, or submit a writing sample, or whatever you're calling it, right? And that you're actually using that content on your website.
yeah. So, I mean, that's also cool. Like, I think if you're just like totally legit about it and you're willing to, front the money for the scholarship, and you're not doing this as a scholarship scam. The thing is, like, a lot of these scholarship, like some of the universities, they seem like they're desperate for money, right? And they'll basically accept any scholarship, which works in the favor of like people like me. But then I think you have to, like, not be not just front on that whole thing, and just, you have to actually do it. And so my intention is, like, there's going to be winners, and so that'll come up in the next, like, 4 months or something. We'll have to pick a winner for certain, because I'm doing it for a couple sites. So it's like there's 2 sites that are going to have winners, and that's cool though. When you think about it, I mean, your students need money, and schools want to, help the students, and it all makes sense. So
yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's a win-win. Somebody really does get a scholarship. They get some funds that they can use towards their education. So yeah, no, great strategy. Did you have another one that you'd like to share, a link building strategy?
let me see. What was I doing before that? I guess we were doing some kind of spotlight, like, so in terms of like a content plan, right? Like, a lot of the times with these sites, it's reviews, like reviews out the yin yang kind of thing. And, then you try to mix it up with some information. But one thing you can do is basically you can write a spotlight on someone else in the industry, and then just let them know that you wrote it, and then they can share it. And you also get to connect with those people too. So that's a one that I have been doing lately as well.
Yep, I've seen that work before as well. So that's a good one. Mm-hmm.
It's not bad. I think that like, when you compare the scholarship one to the whatever you want to call it, like a spotlight article or something, like, they both sort of have different functions, but I guess the edu backlinks are, like, that's like you're getting a huge link versus like if you're just talking to a blogger, like it might even be more effort to like hook up with that blogger. So you got to really sort of weigh the pros and the cons of all that stuff. And, if you're spending like a lot of time trying to hook up with a blogger who's like on Blogspot, so you can get like a DA 1 or 2, like, a non-existent kind of like authority thing, like, you got to figure out your strategy there. If that makes any sense.
Perfect sense. There's some pros and cons to that. So no, very good. I mean, I love sort of picking people's brains on what's working well for them, building their website. Link building strategies is certainly can be a big part of that. It kind of depends on whether people want to go the Claire Smith route of just writing great content and getting traffic, which quite frankly can work and does work. But link building can certainly speed up the process sometimes. So in general, it doesn't necessarily have to be, related to keyword research or link building, but are there any other tips for building niche websites that you'd like to share today?
I would say that like the stuff that I've learned about using Search Console and analytics in the past 6 months has been very helpful because like if you think about it, you're making a site that you want, like you're trying to make friends with Google here, right? Like you're trying to work with Google and Google's your best friend. And so if you are paying attention to Search Console, for instance, like Search Console has a lot of data to give you in regards to your keywords and like where you're ranking and like what it kind of, there's a bit of like it's almost like you really should use Search Console, I find, because it just like there's so much in there, and to ignore it just seems really like I couldn't possibly do without it now, because I think a lot of my keyword ideas come from Search Console itself, right? Because do you know what I mean? Like there's a ton of stuff in there.
Yeah, there is. So can you let's maybe flesh this out a little bit for listeners. So go into Search Console, you can see the queries that are coming to your website, I assume is what you're looking at. And how are you generating those keyword ideas? I mean, I sort of am familiar with that, but what specifically are you doing to get those new keyword ideas?
Well, basically it's the thing about Search Console is it's instead of giving you an idea on what you could do, it's giving you information on what you have done. So it's a different kind of like way of looking at the data. So like say you post, you do like you do a little blitz of like 20 or 30 posts, and then you sit back and you wait for like a month or something, and then Search Console starts collecting data because you've hooked that up properly. That's another thing too. There's a few things you want to go in there and make sure that you've like kind of like got Search Console working properly, because if it's not working properly, then it's not working properly and you need to fix it. So anyway, so you're in there, it's all working properly, and it starts giving you data like back, and you're looking at like the queries, but you're also like looking at the page. Like the thing that I do that's super helpful that my buddy told me about is you look at the page, that instead of looking at the query view, you go to the page view and you see what pages are ranking. Mm-hmm. And then you flip over to the query view in the page view, which is kind of like, I didn't get that for a while. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, what does that mean? But you're in the page, you have the page like selected, the post specifically. Mm-hmm. So you get your one specific post, and then you switch over to the queries and it shows you the queries that are bringing traffic to that page.
Right.
And right. So you're like looking at that, those keywords, and you're like, half the time, depending on how good you are with your like on page stuff, then it might just be a completely predictable list of like what you think it would be. But often there's at least one or two things in there where it'll say like, if it's how to fix, like say you're doing something where it's somewhat mechanical and there's like instructions on how, like, it'll be like how to fix this thing, or like it'll suggest something else in there, and you can either throw that into the post because it's not there, or you can make a whole other post about that topic because it's sort of suggesting that people are searching and they're finding you in relation to that query, but you're not necessarily properly like SEO'd for it because you maybe, you don't have it in the header tags, or you haven't really even included it in the content. Like half the time you'll be ranking for things that are like, I'll just get ideas for specific products straight from Search Console, because it'll say like, oh, we thought you meant this. And I'm like, no, that's not what I'm talking about here. But that's a good idea. Thanks. And then I'll go and I'll look that thing up. Right. So.
Perfect. I mean, that's exactly right. I find that Google often sort of, you start ranking for certain themes, if you will. And sometimes your post targets that keyword or that theme exactly. But sometimes, like you said, there's things that aren't quite right, that aren't necessarily in your article that you're ranking for. And that's a perfect opportunity to, either put it in your article or write a whole other article to start driving traffic to a new page.
Yeah, totally. And my friend, like I have some friends that maybe know a little bit more than me, or they've been around doing this longer. And one thing that someone pointed out was that, you should check out, maybe you haven't even put the main keyword in. Like I'm the kind of person that will just like somehow miss I'll have this post and it'll be like something versus something. And, but that won't be the title for some reason. I'll be like, wait a minute, that should be the title. In fact, that should be the permalink. In fact, that should be the main header. And like, and that's the top keyword. And it's not even the topic necessarily, but it is the topic, but I'll have found a way to not phrase it that way. And then I'll be like, how did I miss that? And then, so I have this one site that I'm going through like a bunch of posts and looking at Search Console and going like, okay, did I do this right again? Like I've looked at this before, but I guess I have to look at it again now. So.
Perfect. Yeah. Google, I was going to say Google Webmaster Tools. Search Console, really is a gold mine for data. So I do recommend that people check that out. So overall, Dave, man, I appreciate you coming on. We've covered a lot of stuff here. And I'm sure there's a lot more that we could, obviously. But sounds like you've got a nice little business going there. If people wanted to reach out to you and somehow get in touch with you, how would they do that?
I guess just find me on Facebook. I'm on there. I don't know. Like I'm from Cambridge is where I live, or it'll come up as Kitchener. I don't have like a website that's like my business or anything. So it's more just like you got to find me on Facebook, I guess, or Skype, which would probably be even harder. But I'd say Facebook is fine, and just like drop me a line. I like actually when like talking to people about this stuff. It's very interesting to me. So
sounds good. So yeah, if people, they might take a little extra work to get in touch with you, but that's fine. If they want to do that, they can. I know you do pop in over on the Facebook group for Niche Site Project 3 that, maybe people can catch you there as well. So.
Oh yeah, totally. That's one of my faves.
Nice.
Yeah, totally. So I'm there a lot too, and a few other little Facebook groups that are kicking around. But yeah, that's like the main one that I chime in on, I guess. Like, yeah.
No, very good. Like I said, I appreciate you coming on. I think you've given a lot of great advice here. Any final sort of motivational words, or just any additional thing you wanted to share before we sign off? No, but I'd just like to say thanks to you, because you were very influential to helping me figure some of this stuff out as well. So I'm a dedicated fan of the podcast and all that good stuff. So just, thanks. No. And thanks for letting me come on. Absolutely. No, I appreciate the kind words. So thank you, Dave, for coming on again. And thanks everybody for listening.